Welcome back to the Sharon Fitzmaurice podcast, where we celebrate the resilience of the human spirit. I have a beautiful guest returning with me today, Dr. Janine Van Someren. She was here with me in March 2023, and I know that many of my listeners have heard her before and really appreciated everything that she shared at the time. Well, she's back and she has more to share. Janine is launching her first book, The Wellbeing Advantage: Seven Transformative Habits. It is a beautiful book. I am proud to have endorsed it also for Janine. I believe in all of the work that she is doing and has been doing, and it is research backed. And it is just a beautiful, and said this as I endorsed it, is a companion. It's not just one of those, do this, do that. It's helping you have awareness. There's beautiful reflection in it. And there is simple, accessible habits that will help you each and every day. And we're going to talk to Janine about her work, her life, and her beautiful book. Janine, you are very welcome.
Oh, thank you, Sharon. Feeling quite emotional hearing you talk about my book. So, yeah, I really appreciate the support you've given me, from the moment I landed in Ireland and was connecting with other people in the wellbeing space. You've been kind and supportive and part of this journey. And yeah, a lot has changed since 2023. I've been a busy bee, Sharon.
You certainly have. And you know what? That's what I love. It's when you welcome people back. Now, obviously, I see it because we connect still on social media and all of that. And you see the progress and how I like this part, you're backing yourself also. And when you back yourself, other people will back you as well. And one of the things that when we did connect and I had you on the podcast, it's your realistic and practical view also of how we can support ourselves. And when we do that, we can support others. And even though you are in the well-being business as I am, it is ways that you have helped sustain your own well-being over the years and what has helped you, and then has brought that passion into your work to support others. And that's what I see, and that's what I see in your book, Janine. And as I said, I am so, so happy that you're back to share with us all again today.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I mean, the book was very much written with the idea that it was the type of resource that I would have wanted myself when I've gone through difficult times. It was very much written with the idea that I know that when I'm working with clients, they are the habits and the process that I work through with clients. I know it works for them. It is those really steady, tiny habits that have been identified as being very niche for each person, but because they're based on science and because they're tailored to the needs of each person, they land really well and therefore they become sustainable. Because if you decide to adopt a new well-being habit and it's something that someone tells you you should do, it's just not going to work. So it's very much talking to the person, really walking alongside, like that companion piece, giving space to the reader to reflect on what's going on in their lives and really identify what are the things that will really help them. And yeah, it was very much in my mind was something that if I had had this when I went through a really, really challenging period in my life, it really would have made the difference. And yes, I'm hoping, and I'm already getting great feedback, that it will help others.
Yeah. So that's one of the things I love in the book, is the awareness. And I think even when we were speaking in March 2023, it's when we are aware and we understand something, then when we have the knowledge, we can help to create a change. Or as I like to say, we can create a choice to make that change,
Yeah.
knowing we have a choice and there is another option for us. But we'll go back to, you're obviously doing this work, you're a well-being coach, speaker, and now a published author. I love saying that to people when they bring their books out. But you have been helping people, rebuild their energy and resilience through these small, sustainable habits. But going back through your career and, starting out You were always very sporty and you were very athletic, and you probably pushed yourself quite a lot, you know, which many people do. And there is a difference, I think, pushing ourselves to the point of burnout and just pushing ourselves because of the passion and love of it as well. But what you're very open about, and even in your book, is saying that, you know, you went through really difficult mental health challenges. Where did you start noticing that, Janine, in your own life?
Yeah, thanks for that, Sharon, and thanks for that reflection because for me, I grew up in the world of sport and physical activity. My mom was a PE teacher. My parents are both crazy about sport. I love it, loved being active as a kid, played a lot of racket sports, lived in Sligo Tennis Club playing badminton, tennis, squash, everything. So I always had a really good foundation of well-being, which and sport and a passion for sport and competitive sport. I played on the Irish squad for a while as a junior. I loved everything that came from that, which led to me studying sports science and then a master's in applied human science. So if you looked at my CV and my profile, you'd have said, this girl knows how to handle a tricky situation. She's got the science background. She's research type performance. I worked for a long time at Wimbledon Lawn Tennis Club, studying the lives of female tennis players and how sport really impacts life beyond the court. I thought I have a pretty good toolkit here of how to manage myself. And then, pretty much out of the blue, I suffered a series of really quite severe panic attacks. They came completely out of the blue. So I had really no sort of reference point for them. I immediately thought, oh my God, I'm unwell. I'm having a heart attack when I had the first one. It was that classic. I'm catching my breath now, even just recalling it, as you can imagine. But the first, if you've ever been unfortunate enough to suffer a panic attack, it does feel like you're having a heart attack. And with my profile, I'm still playing tennis. I do yoga regularly. I go to Pilates. I have a great life. This must be some sort of genetic heart condition that I'm unaware of. Um, so I got myself into a safe space, recovered, whatever that might be, but caught myself, recovered, and didn't really think too much about it. And then, really, quite soon afterwards, I had another, what I now recognize as a panic attack, and began to realize that actually my overall mood, my overall well-being wasn't where it should be. The panic attacks were the trigger, but I think overriding all of that was a real shift in my psychological well-being and my mental health that I hadn't recognized or I put down just to the fact that I was a busy mom. I was working, the kids were getting older. I'd suddenly been volunteering to get involved with loads of different things at the school. I was sort of like class rep for the PTA. I was doing a lot. Um, and they would usually have been things that I would have found really fulfilling and purposeful and joyful. And I suddenly realized, oh, I wasn't getting any joy. I realized that the level of joy and lightness in my life had really disappeared. There was light and shade, but definitely shade was the stronger sort of characteristic of my days. And yeah, I think a really good friend caught me having a coffee and just said, as a good friend will, that she'd recognized a change and she would just sort of like a sort of how are you question, but like how are you really?
Mm,
And yeah, I sort of opened up and it led to her saying, I've been in the same space and I managed to get help. And she recommended someone that she had who helped her. So I got in touch with a clinical psychologist and it took a while.
mhm,
I was probably with her for about 3 years in total. Um, but going to see a professional and realizing that I couldn't just rely on that foundation of well-being that I had. I was fit. I was physically healthy. I had a loving and supportive husband, two great kids who were healthy. There was no issues with them. There was no major concerns, but that there was something else going on. And this cloud, like I say, that light and shade, my life had always been much more about the lightness.
Mm,
I was always had a sense of playfulness, and definitely the shade had impacted it. So the trigger were the panic attacks. They absolutely knocked me for six, and followed up with a really good friend just saying, "How are you?" Like really, and reflecting back what they'd seen. That sort of question that I think is a great thing to ask a friend, is just saying, is it okay if I share with you what I've noticed? And I was receptive to that because the cloud, the heaviness was becoming more part of my everyday. And I was lucky enough that she was able to signpost me towards not only an amazing professional, but a professional who had availability. Like I literally was able to see them that week,
mm,
and it was transformational. It wasn't overnight, and it took a lot of work and a lot of therapy and a lot of yeah, hard times, as I'm sure you appreciate.
mm,
But I would say, if you can find that professional help, it is what's needed. You cannot take it from me. I had the well-being toolkit. I had all the resilience resources. I had the snacks, the resilience snacks, the habit snacks that I could use. But when that cloud comes over you, when that shade literally darkens your day, we need more than just our well-being
mm.
tricks and habits. It
Yeah.
is a point at which asking for help is a requirement in order to step back into the light.
Yeah, well done. Oh, I have shivers up and down because I know exactly where you are and that feeling of the shade. But I think it's really important, for us in this conversation to speak our truth because when you are in the well business, business or practice, and we're sharing things with other people. And again, they're saying, yeah, but you have all of those tools, you don't go through what I go through. And I think it is so important to show our own vulnerability. And especially when you're coming out with your wonderful book. And when people hear that truth and vulnerability and honesty from you, and they can resonate, that means they can connect with something, even though they see Janine, and as you said, on your life on paper, and other people would have looked at you and said, she has everything. But underneath, they don't see what's going on for you and that heaviness that you were carrying. And that, again, even in your book, you talk about that, the connection and how it's so important to have the right connection with the right people. Who's feeding you, supporting you, encouraging you, who really sees you, who do you allow to really see you,
Yeah.
and that they feel safe enough to say, but how are you really? And you know
Yeah.
what? That can feel like sometimes, and I know that from experience and from other clients, and they'll say it's suddenly for, oh no, they see me. But then it's, oh, they see me. It's nearly like this relief that you don't have to carry this by yourself, and that maybe somebody can help you to move through this, step by step.
Yeah.
When you look back at that time, Janine, and you say the panic attacks were the triggers. Well, what was happening before the panic attacks? Like, what was going on for you? I know we can get lost in the busyness of life and, powering through and all of that. But if you reflect back, what was going on for you before the panic attacks?
Great question. And I will say that that time is quite blurry for me. And I do think the brain and the body has an amazing capacity to cloud
Mm-hmm.
our memories of really difficult times. I think what was going on was like my background is in socioculture. Okay, so I'm really interested in the world in which we live, like what's around us, our people, the environment, our culture, what's happening in our brain, but also the environment. I think well, I don't think I know, I'd recently moved house. So I was in a new neighborhood, making new friends. I think I was in an environment where I was probably masking a lot. And I was working really hard at building connections. Now, connections shouldn't be hard to make, we shouldn't have to work hard for it. But in the context of that change, I definitely was performing.
Mm,
I think there is a weight, and I know there's a weight to that because we can see it in data, the weight of performing, and that sort of impact causes a physiological strain. So I think my body was under strain from that move. I mean, the logistics of moving with a family and a couple of young kids, we all know that's crazy.
mm,
But alongside that, I think personally, I found the sort of moving into a new community really quite challenging. I was away from home. I was home, away from
mhm,
my family. Um, I'd also been in the process of moving jobs. So I had realized that I needed more in my life. I now, on reflection, think I was looking at distraction. I think I was keeping myself busy, and it is a classic type A personality of instead of pausing and reflecting, you look and you go, okay, what's next? And what could I do? And will I move? And will I do this? And now I've moved, I'm in a new area and I can get a new job. And where will I get a job? And, I won't get this job, I'll aim for a better job. Um, I think I just was pushing myself too far. But if I'm honest with myself, I was filling my days with things in order to perhaps mask how I was feeling because those panic attacks, they didn't come from nowhere. That sense of strain and overwhelm had been there probably for a couple of years. And I talk about it a lot with clients. And my book allows clients and people, readers, the space to reflect that I know, and Sharon, you know this more than anybody, but the body whispers before it shouts. And my body had been whispering possibly for years and shouting for a couple more before those panic attacks hit in. So, yeah, what was happening beforehand? House move, new community, going for a new job. I think there was just so much going on that
mm,
my system was in overload. And yeah, it shouted really hard. I can still see myself. My first panic attack was in the playground of my boys' school during a summer fete, which in England is safe, like it's a really big event. The whole community get involved. There's hundreds of people there. And I was part of the PTA and being really involved. Um, and yeah, it literally was like a sniper, took a shot, and I had this sudden, absolute rush of panic for no rational reason whatsoever. So yeah, the body was whispering, and then it was sick of telling me to slow down, and it gave me a sharp lesson and a massive reality check in that playground.
yeah, well done, Janine. You know, you share it again, as I said, so honestly, and I think that's what it is, being honest with ourselves. But just as you said, the body whispers, the mind does try and protect us from the harsh reality of what's really going on for us. And it can do that up to a point, but the body is then saying, I can't do this any longer. This is too much stress. It's on the body. It's just you're pushing and pushing. One of the things I remember, and this was going through my own depression years ago, I think it was Michael Harding said, he said, depression is finally having to stop pretending and dropping the mask. That I can't keep pretending I'm okay, that I'm still, performing at 100% and still giving everything I want to give, still helping out everybody, still being there for everybody. You're not being there for yourself. And it's like you just go, I can't do it anymore. It's just too much. And there is that, I suppose, especially in our society now, it's to keep going, keep pushing, push harder, reach the top, do this, do that. And again, when you have other roles, not just being a parent or part of voluntary groups or, keeping exercise, eating well, there's so many to-dos on top of us that sometimes we can feel like we're failing. But that's what I liked about, the honesty of you and your book, is it's about, as you said, they're the small habits that we can have in our life. And they're very, you break them down so beautifully in the book, awareness, habit, actions. The reflection, I love that because for me, I said that to you, I think, when we spoke before. Journaling for me was a way of looking at, writing down those thoughts, feelings, what's worrying me, what's really good, celebrating the wins, the habits that today, I did brilliant at taking that
Yeah,
time for myself. Oh, I didn't do as well today, but that's all right. I'll do that again tomorrow.
yeah,
But everything in your book is offering what I believe, and I did say it's a companion. It's like having your best friend. The book is like a best friend. And that's what I felt with it. It's like having a best friend saying, did you take some time for yourself today? Did you get up and did you see some sunlight today? Did you get out for some fresh air? I'm bringing you out for a walk. You need that today. And it's again when we've so much going on, even the boundaries part, in the book, it's like, have you set boundaries for yourself. And I love in the boundaries, like I think I wrote them down as well. There was so many. Like it was about rest. It was everything. There was, as I said, I could just keep talking and talk and talk about everything in the book, but people have to read it because I'll give it all away. But you had so many boundaries, and even the types of rest you get. People aren't
yeah,
aware of, they think just going to sleep and that's their rest, but it's the mental rest, the physical rest, the different types of rest we need. And when you're in that state of performance
yeah,
constantly, day in, day out, your mind and body are then becoming, this is normal to them until it's not normal.
yeah, yeah. And you know what? For a lot of people, that sort of performance and that being on every day, whilst you and I can't take away a high pressure job from people we work with, like that exists and they've achieved a lot professionally and they're really proud of that role. And we're not going to change that. But it's about finding ways in which you manage that workload because it's not the workload that is getting our clients to feel exhausted, overwhelmed, and for many on the cusp of burnout. It's actually how we cope with that workload. And it's not about having better time management skills, having a better diary, being, yes, boundaries definitely help, but for me, it's very much about understanding that piece about rest and crucially, nervous system regulation. And without getting bogged down in the science of nervous system regulation, I would talk to people all day, every day about finding the activities. So you were using the word rest, and it's restful activities, but really it's any activity where you find that time passes really quickly. So it's any activity where you feel like you're in a state of flow.
Mm.
Like for some of my clients, that's within their working day. It might be that it's the part of their working day where they're involved in an activity that they really enjoy and they immerse themselves in and they lose track of time. I know if I was to talk to them at that moment, if I was to jump into that office space with them and say, how are you feeling right now? What is your capacity like right now? They would say, Janine, I'm all right. Off you go. Leave me to it. I'm fine. And I know that because in many ways I can be with my clients in their office because the majority of my clients have a wearable that I have access to that looks at what their essentially how their nervous system is coping on a day-to-day basis. And if we're looking to find and help people find the most restful activities, they are the activities where clients feel like they are completely in flow. So it's not simply just resting in terms of sleeping, napping, sitting
Mm,
on a sofa doing nothing. It can be gardening, it can be your favorite hobby, it can be crafting, it can be writing, it can be reading, it can be being with a really close friend where you don't have to perform and
mm,
there's no distractions. Rest is not about sleep and it's not about napping. It's about finding a completely beautiful space in which there's calm, lowering heart rate. So again, I would look at and see for some people, they might take a check on like, what's my heart rate right now? And they'll be amazed to see the difference between a moment when they're in calm and a moment when they're on, which is, high performance, working really hard, but it actually putting a lot of strain on your body. So, in terms of that rest piece, I would always implore people to really have a think about what activities allow you to completely just slow down your nervous system. And the greatest hack to find that is get rid of your phone. So even if you're reading a book, just put your phone in a separate room and just walk away from it. That's why I like things like gardening.
mm,
People have their hands full, they're busy, or cooking with some nice music in the background, having your hands full. You're not tempted to scroll. But they are restful activities. They are activities where you are literally recharging your batteries. So I can talk to the client and say, "How are you feeling now?" And they're like, "Yeah, I'm grand." Um, but any of the readers or any of your listeners can just check in with yourself. How am I feeling right now? On a scale of 1 to 10, where is my energy at? Am I at full capacity? Is my battery fully charged? Is at 10? Do I feel if I'm anywhere below 5, I would say just pause, literally catch your breath for 3 minutes. And if you have the ability to go for a short walk or listen to some nice, relaxing music, then do it. Because even 3 minutes, I know from the physiological data and the science that 3 minutes is enough for your nervous system to be given a shot, a
mm,
sort of you're putting a blocker in there and saying, I'm absolutely fine. There is no threat to my system. And our nervous system does need that.
mm. Yeah, I love the way you explain it. It's in the flow, and that can be at work, that can be through an activity, that can be through, having a conversation with your friend. And because again, I'd say so much comes down to our nervous system regulation, and people are in that heightened, always on, and our body can only do that, our mind can only do that for so long. And I love that because, even in the podcast, I often to say I have to check the time because I just keep asking questions, listening, because I'm always learning. I say that to you, Janine. So I have to be professional and keep an eye on the time because otherwise they go on for hours. But that's what it is for me. I feel when you're doing something you love, and that can be through your work where you are in the
Yeah.
flow. But really, just what you said, it's the importance of saying I to take, and I think I said that to you in March 2023. For me, it's the purposeful pause. So
Yeah.
setting aside, time where you are saying, okay, I have a lot and I love my work and I love this, but I'm
Yeah.
still going to take little incremental breaks throughout the day or the evening. Putting away your phone, I think, has been a lifesaver for me if we're talking about putting away phone. Obviously, with work and everything, our phone becomes a huge amount of our lives, laptop screens, everything. But we've become so dependent on them. And now we see scientific research is they're creating more and more anxiety. People
Yeah.
constantly picking it up, constantly checking it. We didn't have that all the time years ago. So putting it away, because again, what we're doing is we're distracting ourselves from how we feel. Just as you said, when you were so busy and performing and weren't listening to the whispers and then the shouts, then the panic attack came and said, will you listen now?
Yeah. Yeah. And again, our minds are really powerful
Yeah.
because, yeah, mindset is life changing. In this space that we share with people we work with, we can discuss really safely what's going on. And quite often, the voices in someone's head, the messages that they're getting about you're not good enough, you're not doing well enough, who do you think you are thinking you
Mm.
can sit in this meeting? Geez, they're going to find out about you. And that's one big challenge a lot of my female clients have, that fear that they're going to be found out. And again, I will work really closely with clients in identifying things as not as threats, but as choices. So when various different triggers come up in the day and you notice that your body is responding in a stress response, it is catching yourself before you get to that cliff edge.
Mm-hmm.
So, I talk about notes from the edge of burnout. And people are often like, how do I know before I get to the edge, before I get to the cliff edge? And I would say, really listen to your internal voice. What is it telling you? Is it useful? And 90% of the time, it's not useful. It is just our brain's way of protecting us. And we've evolved to be overprotective of ourselves. So we are more likely to look for the negative in a situation or the threat of a situation. So if someone even says, gosh, you're looking well today, you're thinking, why did they say that? I mean, what's coming? I don't know what's coming. And the Irish are great at it. Like we slap back those compliments. It's like
Yeah.
it's just how we respond. So a lot of really powerful work can be done in that awareness piece of what are the voices saying and is it useful? Is what you're hearing useful? Because the chances are it's absolute nonsense. And it might be a message that you learned about yourself to protect yourself many years ago, and you're still listening to that voice and it's really no longer useful and you need to tell yourself a different story. And that sort of inner talk, that psychology of how we speak to ourselves is really powerful because our thoughts aren't who we are. They're literally just messages in our head trying to keep us safe. But we have control over those messages and you can speak to them. You can make fun of them. You can respond to them. You can say, that is nonsense. I've earned my place at this table. I have no reason to be worried about going into this space.
Yeah.
I'm talking to people who are really kind and generous. I shouldn't be scared. We're all human. There are lots of different ways we can talk to that voice. But when we're in dysregulation, when we're stressed, when we're I am feeling overwhelmed, that negative message becomes really, really loud. And I know because I've heard it. And when that darkness comes, when that overwhelm comes, the overriding message that you're hearing is a message that's fearful, it's afraid. And as a result, it's making you really small because
Mm.
it's trying to protect you. It's not helping. We need to step up and into the light and listen to the positive messages. And sometimes we have to say it when we don't really believe it.
Mm.
We got to say those things like I am enough, I am ready, I'm not worried.
Mm.
Because your courage will catch up with you.
Yeah.
We fake it, you say it, you might not believe it, but your courage will catch up with you. Your confidence will find you. So just being really aware of that inner voice, it's not generally helpful.
Yeah. That is so true, because what you wrote is like stress is often invisible until it isn't. And we do get those little nudges. And I always say that, what conversation are you having with yourself? Is it a loving and caring one? Is it supportive and encouraging? Or is it knocking you down? And I was teaching at the weekend, and one of my lovely ladies said, I've named the negative voice. I've given it a name, and she'd say, shut up. Mary or whatever else, I'm not listening to you today. You're not being my friend. We have to learn to be our own best friend, especially on the days when we're not feeling, 100%. We may have imposter syndrome, even though everyone is telling you you're doing great. Wow, you look marvelous, and you're like, why are they saying that? Am I really? Why do we question ourselves? Why do we put ourselves down so much? Because I think we're all deserving and worthy, of praise and recognition and to be congratulated and appreciated. But we sometimes don't allow that in because maybe some part of us believes we should be doing more. And that's what it comes back to me. The doing more can be harmful at times if we're not listening to the invisible whispers, to
Yeah.
the build-up of stress within the mind and body. And we still feel like we have to keep going. And I think even from what you said at the very start is, I can really feel this. This is starting to frighten me. I'm afraid of how I'm feeling. And it could be a good friend, it could be taking time out, it could be whatever. But a lot of the times you do need support and professional support to
Yeah.
support you through that process. And I think that takes courage, as you said, Janine, it takes courage to say, I need support. I need help to move through this.
Yeah. And it also, even before the courage, it needs that space to be created.
Mm,
On reflection, I'm pretty sure I know why my friend chose that particular coffee shop.
mhm,
I know why we were there. It was a really safe, comforting space in which I could, chat to her without fear. Um, that idea of our brains protecting us, you know, the science behind that is really fascinating. And when we think about the fact that our brains haven't evolved very far from that Neanderthal caveman, it makes us realize that we are wired to look for threats and to look for things that might go wrong down the
mm,
road. And it does take a specific conscious um, performance to remove ourselves from that feeling of threat and stress and strain. And like I said, the well-being habits are the foundation. So regardless of where our health is, so I think about it in terms of, the injured athlete, the injured Olympic athlete. So they can no longer perform. They might have to step away from competition, but what they will base their day-to-day life on is the foundational skills of well-being, the routine, their movement, getting out, going for a walk, their nutrition, it nourishing and being wholesome, finding balance in the day, the ups and the downs, the yin and the
mm,
yang. We need some excitement, we need some strain, and we also need that to be counterbalanced by moments of rest, connection, and crucially, sleep being
mm,
the sort of the bedrock of all our habits. Because without good sleep, gosh, we're in a bad way.
mm,
So yeah, our brains are amazing. We need to talk to ourselves and to those around us with compassion and with kindness, but that starts with ourselves. And I
mm,
think from my experience of being in that space of heaviness and darkness, it is a matter of you do it until you believe it. But action starts first. Our actions always start first.
mm,
So you do, and finally, like I say, your brain, your psychology, your well-being will catch up, and
mm,
suddenly you're in a much, much better place. But action is needed first and foremost.
mm.
And for every chapter of my book, it ends with how to put things into action,
Yeah.
because it's all very well. Listen, Sharon, I talk to companies week in, week out. I'm not telling them how to exercise, how to eat, how to move. We all know that. We're a Google search away from being experts. Um, but the action piece is a real challenge. How do I get started?
Mm,
What what can I do because my day is already packed? So the well-being habits in my book are specifically designed not to be another thing to do on your to-do
Mm.
list. It's
Yeah.
not just another thing. It's like, geez, I don't have time for this. It is very much like you said, that companion. The action part of it is, how do you make them so small and tiny, yet important and valuable,
Mm.
that you can add it to your day without any overload? So tiny habits, big results.
Mm. Yeah. I love that because, again, if we get caught up in, everybody saying this is the right way to do it, don't eat that, eat this, do that, we do get overwhelmed. And you can see why people feel sometimes threatened by, I'm not the same as Mary down the road and she's doing all of those things. We're individuals and we have to find what is right for us. And going back to, the action and speaking to ourselves and listening to ourselves, and I often say this, our mind is like a computer and what we fed it, or the narrative we fed it years ago and the information we had years ago, maybe the wrong program for us now. It served us well in the past, but now we need to feed it a new data. We
Yeah,
need to feed it new information, and we all change because in the last time we spoke about perimenopause, menopause, sleep issues, hormonal imbalances, all of that, and we're constantly changing within the physical and within our mental awareness as well. And emotionally, we're changing because, as you said, there's a lot more as we get older, or, whether you family or losing parents or, different things with health and all of that, we are changing too. So we need to change that information or conversation to ourselves, and that we don't have to be perfect, we just have to try to do our best for ourselves each day. And that's what I love, as I said, about your book. It is that companion. It's very grounded in those little small routine habits that you bring into your daily life. It's not to add more on your list, but it's to say, could I invite in space where I'm going to start feeling a little bit better? And I think when people do that, they actually feel really good about themselves and they start talking nicer to themselves. And then they start saying to people, well, I picked up that book by Janine Van Someren, and I tell you what, I just started doing the morning one, and I feel so good for the rest of the day. And then you know what I did? I picked up the journal and I started writing a bit about it, and sure, I'm brilliant. And they
yeah,
start praising themselves. And then they're sharing that with people because now they're happy that they've created this actionable step in their daily routine. And then other people say, Jesus, you're looking mighty. You can actually see how well,
yeah,
and they're saying, how do you do it? Give me that book and I try it.
yeah,
It's what it is. It's like, I always say, it's kind of like the ripple effect. And that's what you've created as well, Janine, because from your own expertise, your own research, your own personal lived experience, you're bringing into the world, to help others. But now in your book, to say, this is my ripple effect through everything
yeah,
I've been through. And now I'm going to share that with you. That'll have a ripple effect in each individual that reads it. And I can guarantee within their relationships, within their work, within their communities, and with everyone they come into contact with. Because that's what, and it's not positive and negative, but it's like that energy that we bring into ourselves when we choose us, when we choose to
absolutely.
say, I am worth this.
Yeah, absolutely. How, and beautifully stated. And it reminds me of conversations I had with the editors when I was writing the book. And on the front page, it's seven transformative habits. That word transformative, they very quickly realized that that was a cornerstone for the book. The realization that if you can find one tiny habit, that it unlocks so many aspects that ripple through your well-being.
Mm,
So whether or not it's that you're getting out in the morning and having like a really short 10-minute walk the impact that has on the choices you make when you sit back at the desk. You're clearer of mind, you respond to emails, and you're not reactive. You're much more considered and thoughtful, that you're then greeting colleagues and friends with much kinder and empathetic because you've had a moment of calm and balance at the start of your day. And that goes on throughout the day. You make better choices about what you have for your lunch. You decide, you make a phone call to an old friend, you connect with that friend. So it is that transformative nature that habits can bring to somebody's life.
Mm,
And again, I would say crucially, it's finding the habit that you enjoy doing each and every day. So a habit is specifically a habit because it becomes habitual. It becomes literally a part of your day. So, as part of your morning routine, you have this one habit. So, we all brush our teeth in the morning and the evening. That's our routine. But could we add a tiny habit onto that? Could
mm,
we add something that we do, that when we put down our toothbrush, we go to our bedroom and we pick up our journal? And it's literally combining the two. It would feel weird not to do that when it becomes embedded in our routine. I have a very sort of simple well-being hack when I brush my teeth, and that is literally just doing very slow, controlled
mm.
squats. So standing still and just squatting slowly up and down. I don't know, Sharon, but I think it would kill me now to stand still and brush my teeth because my body, I'm like a trained animal who picks up the toothbrush, clicks it on, and then I will automatically, without thinking. And if you have a really great habit, it's a habit because it's done instinctively,
Mm.
subconsciously. My
Yeah.
brain is not involved in that process. It is something that I'm doing instinctively because it's become habitual. I brush my teeth, therefore I,
Squat.
whatever that might be. Yeah.
I love
And
that
yeah,
because we're trained, even as children, to get into the habit of brushing our teeth and becomes instinct that automatically,
yeah,
we get up, go into the bathroom. But I love that you've incorporated that beautiful habit of squatting. One of the things I say to people, and it comes back to being your own best friend, when many people say, find it very hard to see myself the way others might see me. Again, we go back to being your own best friend. And I would say, well, you all brush your teeth in the morning. Do you actually look at yourself in the mirror and criticize yourself, or do you actually look and say, good morning? And they all laugh when I say that. And I say, you're the first person to greet yourself each day. And you're brushing your teeth anyway. What about just looking into your eyes? And even if you just silently say, good morning, Sharon,
beautiful.
how are you today? Or it's going to be okay. If I wake up thinking of all the things I have to do, it's just
Yeah,
calming yourself, taking a moment. Because again, I'm sure you've heard people saying it, Janine, I've no doubt. They're like, I don't have time to do any other things. So you
yeah,
bring it into the parts of your life where you are already, or you
yeah,
already have those habits. And that's what I like. It's you're doing that. You're saying, while I'm doing this, or can I have, I always say, you all have to go to the bathroom, breathe a little deeper when you're in there. You're sitting anyway. Well, for me, do you know what I mean?
yeah,
I'd
yeah,
say don't make it this extra thing that you have on
yeah,
your list. Bring it
yeah,
boiling the kettle. You could do your squats there. You could look out
yeah.
the window. Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the things, in terms of habits, they're not necessarily things you add to your day. Quite often they're things you take away.
Mm,
So you're recognizing, building that awareness piece of what am I doing that I really shouldn't be doing? An idea of like what your non-negotiables are. What are you not willing to put up with? People, places, things, whatever. That's another conversation.
yeah.
But habits aren't always things that you add to your day. Like one great habit, Sharon, for my clients who commute and have had really busy days, I will always say that when they get into their car and they're driving home in the evening, really treat that journey as a sanctuary.
Mm,
And in that sanctuary, choose what it's going to be like. So for many, it means like clearing out their car, making it initially a really lovely space that they want to be in. So get rid of the clutter and the rubbish. And then really think about something simple. For many clients, it's just don't turn on the radio. You do not need to listen to people jibber jabbering about what's going on in the world after you've already had a very highly, your nervous system is on. It doesn't need to hear about what's going on in the world. So either don't turn on the radio and literally just drive home and enjoy the silence. Be very mindful of your driving and what you're looking at. Narrate that journey. Have your internal monologue, being really sort of like, oh, so I'm driving now and there's a
Yeah.
nice car and da da da. But that car space, there's really, really great opportunity to treat that as a really calm and balanced space. Even if you're in crazy rush hour traffic, people will be listening to this podcast now in their car. And I would say, great. A podcast like this is a great example of something that's really beneficial in that space. So you're taking a moment to listen to others, to reflect on, oh, is there something here that I could take away with? And when I finish the podcast, actually, I'm going to call a mate who I haven't spoken to for a while. But yeah, habits are not necessarily add ons to our day. In many cases throughout the book, they're ideas of things to take away from your day
Yeah.
or just to turn down the volume on some things. And literally in this case, I say to people, literally turn down the volume of what you're listening to. And if you can change the radio station, put on Sharon's podcast, go to ensuring that what you're listening to has a calming influence on your nervous system. And again, you can check that with regards to how am I feeling? Just put
Yeah.
your hand on your chest. You know, we started off this conversation where I was talking about, my experience of panic attacks. I'm now very conscious of the benefit of placing my hand on my upper chest and literally using it not just as a grounding, reassuring, I am here, I am safe, I am well, but from my physiological point of view, how am I actually, like, is my heart racing? I shouldn't be able to feel it knocking in my chest. And if I am, then I need to take a step back, take a pause, turn off the radio, turn off the TV, get the phone out of the room, and just have a moment to really sit with yourself, not to be profound and not to be a deep meditative state. Just take a moment to pause.
Yeah. You know what? I even feel calm just listening to that because, again, we're in the flow, but it's turning. And I think that's a really important thing you said. It's turning down the volume on all of the distractions, the noise we create in our daily lives, you know, and to turn everything down. And I know there's some people who say they don't feel safe to sit in silence. So that's another conversation. But it's, again, it could be listening to calming music. It could be listening, as you said, to the podcast, to people that are helping you to feel safe in that space with yourself until you don't need anything, just yourself. I just say if you can't sit in silence, go out and just listen to the birds, go and walk in the trees, go and listen to the water, find spaces and places. But again, just the realistic part of it and the practical side of it, people say, I don't have time. That's not near me. I can't spend another 2 hours in the car. What you've said is, again, this very practical and accessible space in your car. Get in, take a breath. And I always say to people, what do you want to bring home with you? Do you want to bring that busy day from work and all the people that you dealt with back home to your safe sanctuary?
Yeah.
Or do you want to start leaving it behind you every little bit of the way? And I'm sure you've heard it, people say, I can't even remember the journey home. I'm so
Yeah.
stressed. I'm da 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 da. That is dangerous, first and foremost, for you and other drivers. So it's again finding that safety, that space, and that quietening down everything when you have. I always say, isn't it great? You've 2 hours to drive, 2 hours for yourself. Instead of going, oh, 2 hours, two
Yeah.
hours just for you. That's a
Yeah.
gift in any day. Instead of,
Yeah.
again, it's turning that thought around, isn't it, Janine?
Yeah. And that perspective, reframing what's
Yeah.
happening and reframing where you at. Like, the carnage that goes with shuffling children into school for a school run and dropping them off safely,
Mm.
um, getting back into the car, hold your chest, take a breath, and don't turn on the radio.
Yeah.
Allow your nervous system a moment to pause. And I would say, even driving slower, even being more mindful in how you get out of the car, get back into the house. We all know situations where when someone walks into a room, as you really quite rightly said, you don't want to be bringing the sort of drama and busyness of your day into your home in the evening. Quite often from that 6, 7 o'clock onwards, we're trying to bring down the energy. If we have children, we're trying to slow them down. If we've had a busy day, we ourselves are trying to slow that down. A lot of my clients will use the handle of their front door as a pause.
Mm.
So, where they will literally visualize that, and as they're coming to it, they will hold it and they will be like, I am safe, I am calm, I am well. And it's that idea of that sort of reassurance of all of the stuff that's been going on in the day. Really, that's finished. It's parked. It's parked with your car. And then we go back to it in the morning. But that trigger, that anchor of the door handle being that moment of, and now I step in as the parent, the partner, the relative, the friend that I want to be, and showing up as my best self. A
Mm.
lot of my work, we talk about, you know, my main motive working with anyone is that you're able to bring your best self to work and home again.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, as again, just like in March 2023, we could spend hours talking, Janine, about it all because everything that you say, I resonate with, not just my personal life, but in my professional life. And I know that, some people may say, well, there's simple things to do. Will they make a big change? I can promise you, and both myself and Janine, from our own personal lived experience and professional, that they will make huge transformative changes in your life. So if there's anything that we have spoken about and Janine has shared today, if you just take one of them, one little thing, and you bring it into your day and see how that works. And if it starts creating that feel good in your mind and in your body and in your day, and then with your partner, and then with your children, and then with your friends, and then at work, you'll go, wow, maybe this does work. Because if you know that old saying, if we continue to do the same things over and over again with the same result, it's insanity. And we wonder
Yeah.
why things don't change because we need to create that small change. It doesn't have to be huge. You don't have to go out and change everything. It's one little change, as you said, just brushing the teeth, Janine, in the car, taking a 10-minute walk, all of the things you spoke about. But that's why I think, as I said again, and I will repeat it, your book is like the companion. It's like the best friend. You want to be there, not trying to fix you, but supporting you and encouraging you to bring in these little small habits every day, to reflect on them, to be aware of, oh, how did I feel today after that? God, I actually felt good. It was lovely. I liked it. Because you have like the reset, the movement, nutrition, balance, rest, connection, and sleep. And within each of them, you go into the detail, but it's all accessible. It's all simple. It's things that sometimes we don't have the time to think about how we're going to change it. So we need our best friend or the support, which is the Wellbeing Advantage by Janine Van Someren. And again, I will only endorse what I truly believe. The guests I have on, they have something to share. And this is the second time, Janine, you've been on the podcast. So that shows how much I believe in Janine and her work. But again, for you, Janine, it is all of your experience, and as I said, I am very grateful for your courage to talk about your lived experience because it does give other people permission to maybe go and get support.
Oh,
Because,
well,
yeah,
yeah, I was just going to say, thank you for creating the space, not just for me, your fellow guests, your listeners, you yourself have created this space that allows the sharing, the honesty, the authenticity that can be quite tricky to find these days. So, a heartfelt thanks to you for creating the space and being so supportive of my work. It means the absolute world to me. So, thank you.
Oh, you are so welcome. And anytime you are welcome, because as I said, there is so much to talk about in your work. And I know if people listen to this, but they want to go back, because we do talk about the wearables, we do talk about sleep, we go into other things as well. That's why I said with you, Janine, there is so much you cover and you work with, your one-to-one clients and with teams and groups and organizations that you have an all-round support system for people and
Yeah.
individuals. So, yeah, this book I think is going to be an amazing success, not just in its sales and where it goes in the world, but I think a success in being that companion to people that pick it up, read it, and work with it and bring those beautiful daily habits one step at a time into their own lives. So I congratulate you once again on such an amazing book and on all the work and on where you are in your life, Janine.
Oh, thank you very much. And yeah, if anyone wants to reach out on social media, tell me what habits they've tried and how they're getting on. I'm always up for a chat. So yeah, would love to stay connected. I know you and I will always be connected
Mm.
through our work and our support of each other in the online space and in person. So yeah, many thanks, Sharon.
Oh, you're so welcome, Janine. So Janine's book is being launched on the 6th of April, and I'm going to put up a link because this podcast, when it's released, will be before that date of 6th of April. I have to say that I had to think in my head for a minute, but it is being launched exactly at the 6th of April, and you're doing a little Amazon push in Ireland and UK. So I will put up the link to set a reminder for the event. And the 10 a.m. matters because Amazon pays attention to the sales momentum. And remember, there is so many people out there. There is so much, and we can be inundated. But again, if you think this book can really help me, and I know it could help others, let me add that event to my calendar. Let me go on Amazon, buy that book at 10 a.m., receive it, and then it'll get out to the world a little quicker. Because, as Janine said, I am so supportive because too many people look the other way and they go, you know, I don't want to. I don't really know them. Why should I support them? We should be encouraging and supporting each other as much as possible. That's the interaction. This is the connection that Janine, you've talked about in your book. Positive connection, connection where you feel good for supporting another and seeing them do well, seeing them help others. Oh my God, sure, I'd be lit up every day, because I love
Yeah,
to see people doing well. I love to see, like you, Janine, sharing everything that can help other people, how it's helped you. So to me, that is like, why would you not support others? Why would you not encourage others? To me, it's
yeah,
just abnormal not to do that.
yeah, yeah.
So definitely the book coming out, and I will put up your link, wellbeingadvantage.com. You can connect to Janine on Instagram, The Wellbeing Advantage, LinkedIn, Dr. Janine Van Someren, and you're on Facebook, The Wellbeing Advantage with Dr. Janine Van Someren. I'll put all of those links in the show notes. Please go and follow Janine, support her. Follow her on all of the social media sites. Go and check out her website. The event will be there so you can buy the book at 10 a.m. on the 6th of April. And just get your copy. And when you get it,
Oh,
take a picture of yourself like this and tag Janine on social media. And if you want, as you're reading it, what's the first thing that stands out for you? What's the first little thing, habit you're going to bring into your day? And remember, you can reflect on it, whether it's going really well or you're finding it challenging, but it's always around the awareness of it. What's making me feel good? Because sometimes we think about all the things that are not making us feel good, and we forget to focus on the things that do. So the
Yes.
Wellbeing Advantage, 7 transformative habits to thrive in work and life. Look at the book, look at the cover, go out and get it. Janine, thank
Right.
you so much. It has been such a pleasure. And as I said, I wish you every success with your work, with your book, and I can't wait to see where you are going next. So thank you
Oh,
again.
thank you so much.
You're so welcome. So thank you, everybody. I would love if you listen to this that you like, subscribe, follow, or share wherever you're listening to, and share with your friends. Share with someone, tag somebody and say, I've just heard this great podcast. Be that friend that Janine met in the coffee shop and say, you know what? I think you need a little bit of support today. But until I meet you in that coffee shop, maybe this book will help you be a best friend until I meet you in person. So until next time, everyone, take care of you.